I like this picture because you get to see all of that and this molding back here. Sometime when you're sitting in church, I want you to look through the latticing above the organ, and if you do, you can still see that molding behind it. You can still see the dark molding through the white lattice of the organ pipes. I do it all the time. Not that I'm not paying attention. Our exterior was also dark. Everything was very dark back in 1900. Exterior was also dark wood with white window frames. Like I said before, the steps came straight out the front, leading down to the street. This is a congregational picture that is not dated, but there's a car in it. And judging from the way they're dressed, we're in the 19 teens. So that is the original front. Here we are from the side. So you can see that there was a door right here that led in, that a lot of us still remember. We didn't cover up that door until the edition of 1994. But it's a really good shot of the windows. That's why I liked this one. And what's interesting about this picture is that we have lots of pictures that are duplicates here, like so many of those that I have out on this table, we have multiple copies of. People were really great at labeling them. I just found one when I was putting this project together. For the very first time, I found this picture with a label on it, and then I thought, oh, I kind of wish I never knew that. These are all the orphans from the Lutheran orphan home. I know, then it just made me sad. I thought it was a great picture before I knew what I was looking at. So yeah, these are the orphans. I don't know why they were visiting, but that's what we're looking at in this picture. So some of Pastor Gravas' other accomplishments was that he was the very first pastor here to do a service in English. And if you look back at the church notes from that day, June 30th, 1907, it says, "First English service, attendance was good." So I think they were a little concerned. No. And it actually went so well that they began to mix up English and German. They would alternate, they would throw them in, once, twice a month. It wasn't just like a gimmick that they did once. It went so well that they started to intersperse the English services with the traditional German services. Because as we will learn tomorrow, it wasn't until 1918 that the service book officially switched to English language entirely. The other thing that was notable about Pastor Gravas' accomplishments was that in 1909, he purchased our very first organ and gave it to the Sunday school for use with their lessons. Prior to 1909, our services had no music. Wrap your head around that. It was just an old guy yelling at you in German with no music. And yet attendance was good. So, purchased an organ, gave it to the Sunday school. Sunday school had been using English in their lessons for quite some time already, and that was why they started using it in the church in the first place. A lot of things that we learned here, we learned from the children. The children started English, we switched to English. The children got an organ and sang, they said, hey, let's do that in church. So, so many things started with our kids. Again, I didn't have a great picture for this slide, so I threw you this one, because this is one of my favorite pictures of all time. This is my grandmother, Irene Schellis, and her mother, Dorothy Schellis, some other odd relatives and friends, and do you know where they are? They are sitting in dried up Glen Falls in 1908.
No.
Yeah. The falls had dried up, and they crawled there right in at the base of Glen Falls, sitting in there getting this portrait taken. So yeah, those are some St. Paul's members sitting in the falls. Please don't any of you go do that after we're done. Pressing the button. Reverend John Hartman took over in 1910. He was here till 1925. He converted our church to electricity. It was a very big deal. Electric lights were installed on Main Street in 1901. A lot of houses did not catch up for quite some time after that. We were electrified in 1911. We converted to electricity when we got our very first organ. He got the organ for the actual church itself after the Sunday school had enjoyed theirs. The Young People's Society raised money to donate the first organ to the church itself. So our first organ went in 1911, and at that time we also converted to electric light. So what we have here with Pastor Hartman is a picture of our children's choir from the early 1920s. Center we have Cora Graham. She was our music director and our organist. You will meet her tomorrow when Carol Hall puts on a furry coat and becomes our very first music director. In this picture we also have Dorothy Landell Shaver right there and Lester Klein. You will also meet them tomorrow with Dorothy's great-granddaughter and Connor Brown playing Lester. And you will learn more about our esteemed music program from Carol tomorrow. I hope you got your hat that I sent you. Reverend Bartholomew Henry Schliefer, we'll go with that, 1925 to 1932. He had our first only English language services. From what I can tell, even though our black book that's sitting back there went to English in 1918, we still liked our German. We still sprinkled it in here and there, and it wasn't until he took over that we were all English all the time. What we have in our top picture is the church council from a not dated photograph, even though I have 42 of those, not one of them has a date on it. Tomorrow, you will meet Henry Hanel right here, when Dave Nuzzo becomes Henry Hanel and tells you about things that the church council did during that time. And I threw in this picture of the Reverend down in front of the Albright Knox Art Gallery because it's just a fantastic photo. Some other pictures from his tenure. There's confirmation class at the top that also has Dorothy Shaver and Lester Klein in it. Klein from Klein Road. You will learn about that tomorrow as well. Another congregation picture in front of the church. And down here, he is hanging out with my grandfather, Charles Landell, after he baptized my mother in 1932. This is a name a lot of you probably know. Not only because he baptized me, but because he was here for a really, really long time. Pastor Charles Julius Mengy survived many changes throughout this church. When he took over in 1933, he took over in the heart of the Depression. And even though the country wasn't doing well and certain people were not doing well, a lot of our church members were. My grandfather included. I mean, we were fortunate to have some people who did not suffer as much as others during the Depression, so our church survived when a lot of others were struggling. He also saw us through World War II and then the following baby boom. And it was the baby boom that really encouraged the expansion that we experienced here. In 1949, we had our very first addition to the church. So this thing right here, our very first brick addition, was for the Sunday school because we had so many kids by 1949 that we needed an expansion for the Sunday school. Before that, the kids met in the church basement. We had a couple of rooms down here in the basement, but we needed to expand and have some really decent Sunday school space. So in 49, we put the little addition on. We gained a couple of classrooms and a bathroom. At the same time, we also remodeled the interior of the church. This is when we got the arches that you can't actually see in this picture. But that was when we put the 3 heavenly arches in the front of